Welcome, everybody, to our February 2026 monthly on Mondays session today. We're really excited to have you here, and we have a great panel discussion today on advancement, giving, and foundation relations. Today, our panel includes Angelique Andrulaitis. She's the Senior Executive Director of Development. She brings extensive expertise in relationship building business through university advancement, partnering with various faculties and departments to advance research, education, and clinical priorities through donor engagement and foundation relations. We also have Tim Prelletz. He is the Executive Director of Development for Urology and Health Advancement at UCI. He also brings extensive experience in fundraising strategy and donor relations, working very collaboratively with faculty leadership to strengthen philanthropic partnerships in support of academic medicine. And then we have Dr. Jamie Landman, who's professor and endowed chair of the Department of Urology here at UCI. In addition to his expert clinical and academic leadership, Dr. Landman works closely with the development teams to support philanthropic efforts that advance research, education, patient care within the urology department and across the School of Medicine. He has extensive experience in philanthropy, and we thought having this wonderful panel today to help guide us in this very important era. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Dr. Brian Cummings.
All right, thank you, Namisha. So just a couple quick housekeeping points. We are recording this and we'll be posting this to UCI's School of Medicine Faculty Development website shortly. Please drop any questions you have in the chat anytime, and we'll just do Q&A as they come in. We're happy, raise your hand or put something in the chat. We'll monitor that chat. And then just a couple ground rules to make sure that we stay away from any patient identifying information or confidential donor details. And let's try to keep our questions short and our answers short so that we can have very practical, hands-on experience here. So with that background, I'm just going to go to our panel members and ask them in just a few sentences, could you tell us what's the biggest misconception faculty have about fundraising? So how about Angelique first?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Cummings. I think the biggest misconception around fundraising that I've experienced with faculty is that it could harm the relationship, the patient physician clinician relationship, when in my experience supporting our donors, especially grateful patient donors, it oftentimes strengthens it because it allows them an opportunity to show gratitude and thanks. And we're helping them define a way where they could do that in a tangible means. And then they're also helping the faculty member in the work that they're doing. And so they feel like they've become a part of that mission.
Okay. And Tim, what would your response be to the biggest misconception we have about fundraising?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cummings, and hi, everyone. Nice to meet all of you here on Zoom. The biggest misconception I could say in my time working with health here in particular, I think, is that, our faculty engender so much passion in our donors here and their patients especially. And so it's a misconception, I think, at times where, as Angelique said, it could frazzle the relationship with a patient faculty member, but that I've never faced a case like that ever with gift conversations. For the things that you do for patients, saving their lives, treating them with care, exquisite care, especially here too, it creates opportunities for us to partner with you on that side. So as Dr. Cummings mentioned, I work closely with Dr. Jamie Landman here too, and we've had a lot of great stories of patients who have engendered just so much passion for the Department of Urology over the years here, who are just so pleased with the care that they received, and they want to find a way to give back. And that's where we built a really great partnership with our faculty to build meaningful relationships with patients.
You guys sound very well practiced, so we're going to have to work on that. Thank you. Dr. Landman, what misconceptions do you find faculty have?
Well, there's a few, but at the risk of sounding redundant, well, first of all, Brian and Namisha, thank you for allowing me to present, and for the faculty who I the decision that we're all about, and probably the best way to truly accelerate that. So if you have any questions after this, you have my email. Just email me, or I'm happy to give you my cell phone. I can put it in the chat after. But I'm going to sound redundant. Going back to your question, I'm going to say exactly what Tim and Angelique just said. This is not ever a mechanism for hurting a relationship. In fact, this is not a vulgar process at all. It seems like it would be because you're asking, and I was brought up not to ask, was to give and help your family and your community. This is actually an opportunity to strengthen and grow relationships. It sounds almost counterintuitive, but it's absolutely true. Have been doing this very diligently and at high volume now for years, and have yet to have a relationship that's gotten worse. Conversely, have seen many relationships get much better. And it's not something I was at all comfortable with, and you may not be, but it's something that might be worth getting comfortable with if you love your research and education, which in a integrated era where the beauty of integration, which is a national phenomenon, is that it smooths out departments, divisions, and the School of Medicine. There's nobody who's super rich and nobody who's super poor, in that the system's supposed to at least do that. But what that does, it means that nobody has an enormous amount of extra research and education funds. This is the way to do it. Sorry, that was a long answer.
That was great. We're good with that. So if anyone asks questions, we'll repeat them in the chat. But let's go to kind of what I call segment one and find out for us faculty, how does advancement work? Just assume you're talking to a newbie and we've never done fundraising before. Maybe we'll start with you, Jamie. Is how does advancement work?
So you got to do 90% of the work. So 90% of the work is
the faculty have to do the work?
Yeah. But let me finish. Let me finish. 90% of the work is you have an appointment, you see a patient, you provide them amazing, compassionate care, and they leave happy. So that is something we are all doing every single day. And that's 90% of the work. Now, if I said to you 10% more work with no RVUs, you'd be like, wow, that's a lot. And in fact, it is. But I want everyone to know that you've already done 90% of the work. The extra 10% is transferring that wonderful relationship, that passion, into a potential gift. And, not everyone has the capacity to give, and some people want to give their time. We do a lot of events and offer them the opportunity to help us with that. But there are a lot of patients that we see who do have the capacity to give. And if you happen to engage one, it's very easy. And there are different phenotypes. So some of my faculty are very wary and nervous, and they just don't want to talk to patients. So what they do is they either call Tim or call me or text us and say, hey, I saw this woman or this guy, and he seems to have some significant means, and he had a very good experience, and you can reach out. And so the easiest way to do that is usually I'll just ask them to write a text. In fact, Tim does most of the work. He actually composes the text, sends it to the faculty member. The faculty member says, hey, Mr. Mrs. Jones, whatever, really great seeing you. If you're interested in supporting our work, Tim will put the verbiage together. Your development office can do that. I'd like to reach out. If the development officer reaches out alone, very low probability because they didn't engender the passion, but they're a great partner. So if you reach out and cut and paste that email to them, then if you're uncomfortable doing it yourself, your development officer can reach out. Then there are people who are moderately comfortable, and they can call Tim or myself, and we'll go out and meet with they'll ask their patient to go out. And then there's just people who are super comfortable, and that phenotype, just go ahead and do it, and then just let us know what's going on. Whatever you're comfortable with, but my recommendation is become comfortable with it, because it's really the one blue ocean we all have left.
All right. Well, Namisha, how about you take it away? I just got a call that I should have hit mute.
All right. Perfect. Angelique, can you give us, from your perspective on how advancement is structured here at UCI School of Medicine, and how should faculty think about your role versus their roles? Dr. Landman explained it really well, but from your overall, from kind of an organizational viewpoint.
Yeah, thank you. So our health advancement team is a group of many people with different tasks and roles. We have a lot of frontline fundraisers who are the partners that are really going to be working with our faculty. Within our team, we have an interim associate vice chancellor who helps oversee the priorities of health advancement, works very closely with many of our leaders, including Dr. Goldstein, Chad Lefteris, Dean Stamos, and then others. I know he works with Dr. Landman as well. And then we have a line of senior executive directors. I share this because this is kind of our org chart of how we are structured. There's an entire two different frontline fundraising teams that are very focused on the clinical departments and really partnering with our clinicians, as well as some basic scientists within those areas, such as cancer, neurosciences, et cetera. But every single clinical department has somebody to partner with on the advancement side. And then we also have another arm that is partnering with the College of Health Sciences. And then we work together just in case there's ever any cross opportunity between the clinical departments as well as the various schools within the College of Health Sciences. We also have somebody dedicated to the Child Family Comprehensive Cancer Center, the Samuel Integrative Health Institute. So we're really overseeing all arms of health advancement. And the way we approach this is we really speak to the UCI health mission, the Discover, Teach, Heal. And that really makes it very easy for us to work with our faculty in identifying what those priorities are from your end, as well as being able to translate that for our prospect donors. Because really the Discover is the research component. Teach, obviously, we're an academic medical institute, so we're generating the future of our professionals and specialists. And then, of course, Heal is the clinical component. And it's very easy for us to take what your needs and priorities are and essentially outline it within one of those three buckets, which makes it really easy to communicate that to our donors.
Fantastic. Now, Tim, could you explain, you work with Dr. Landman very closely in the urology department. What does an effective partnership look like day to day for the busy clinician and scientist? I know Dr. Landman kind of explained it, but from your perspective, how does that look?
Yeah, it's a very good question here. So Dr. Landman, I think we have about 30, 35 faculty on staff. And so what we have is about half of those folks are participants in what we call our clinician engagement program. So what this actually is a program that our office, Health Advancement, utilizes to identify potential major gift donors who are also grateful patients associated with the faculty. Of those faculty that I help support, I generally meet with them on a monthly basis here. As Dr. Landman had shared, some faculty are not so comfortable with development, some are very comfortable with development. So my job has always been to identify, how do you like to be involved? How do you not like to be involved? And how can I support in between that? I have worked with faculty that are incredible with their patients. That can be difficult to have a meeting with me. Maybe they're not comfortable with philanthropy, where sometimes I have to reach out to the patient myself and I'll say, hey, Dr. Jamie Landman asked me to reach out to you. Would love to speak with you and have a conversation about your experience with UCI and how you can consider giving back. But I also have faculty who are more than willing to partner however they can, where if we identify somebody who has expressed gratitude or has been a part of our CEP or is a patient in our CEP program, the doctor and I will talk about them, where they stand with their care. Is this a good time for us to reach out? Do we need to hold off for a few months here? And if we're determined to move forward with engaging the patient here, what we'll do is actually craft an introduction from the faculty member to me, introducing myself, what my role is. The doctor can share a couple ways of how they consider giving back to support their respective research on that side. But for all of us, I think in our health advancement operation, it's finding out through our faculty how they like to be involved and how they don't like to be involved here as well. There are some that are very great partners with us and they want to be involved every step of the way. There are some where it's like, here's a name, we're going to give it to you, carry forward with it here. And Dr. Landman's been great about filling in for that too as well. With some faculty who might not feel so comfortable with it, he's actually done introductions on behalf of other faculty as well. but really it's identifying, where they're comfortable and where they're not comfortable. And we're going to be a balance in between of all of that, certainly.
Thank you.
All right. So, Dr. Landman, Tim was kind of referring to his relationship with you. What, from a leadership position, what's most changed the game in urology? Culture, prioritization, stewardship. What is it that's made urology so successful? And then next, I'm going to ask folks to transition to us poor basic scientists who have no grateful patients to help us out. But first, what about the leadership that changed in urology?
So I'll start off with the end, with the basic scientist.
Great. Okay.
So you're not forward facing. So that makes it just a titch more difficult, but you're also the people who have the capacity with the Discover mission to have more serious impact than anybody else on campus. So it makes things a little more difficult. There's one of two things that I would do. One is find a clinical partner who works in something that's relevant, if that's possible, and fundraise together. That kind of a translational approach, you may find it distasteful if the basic science is really your passion, but at the same time, think bigger picture mission. If you make the dollars, it'll help the basic science move more quickly and more readily. I also think the basic science leadership should be working with the dean, and maybe with Dr. Goldstein and our administration to set up events. You have the highest impact, and we have some very important, powerful donors who, if they heard that, would be really happy, I think, to support. The work you do is amazing. You have to learn how to translate it, because these people may be as smarter than us, but they don't speak our language. So they don't speak our language clinically or from the basic science perspective. But if you can do that, so that I don't know that that's been done, or I haven't seen it done, but I think that would be the approach I would take. And if there's any basic science leaders, that's what I would propose. And those are the only two mechanisms I can think of. But our basic scientists have benefited tremendously, and that's Josh Mauney, who's a bioengineer, Sheldon Z, Michael Wu, and Carol Davis Doubt. She's a PhD in epidemiology, not a formal basic scientist, but her entire salary comes from development dollars. I think your first question, which was the one I skipped, was operationally how we do this.
Well, yeah, from a leadership, like what changed? Urology is doing great. I mean, that's you guys are on the map.
I think we could do better, but I think what it is just awareness and culture, and that's easy to say, hard to do. But I mentioned development. So first of all, if you come to visit us here at our academic offices where I'm seated, there's a wall as you walk in, and everyone walks by that every morning, and you will see the names of our very generous donors. And I nod there and thank them pretty much every day when I walk in the door. It's your first reminder. At every faculty meeting, at grandest rounds, at every journal club, every time we're together, we congratulate those who've raised gifts. We congratulate our development team. It's not just self-flattery. It's just about creating awareness. It's really important. And in an era where NIH dollars, all the government dollars are so unbelievably tight. And again, I went through my feelings about the integration makes it very difficult to really raise. When I first started here 15 years ago, I could come up with $1 million a year and carry forward, and we had 9 faculty. I got 38 faculty, and it's hard to stay in the black, which makes no sense cognitively, but is just the reality. So how do you do that? You raise millions of dollars every year for Discover and Teach. And by the way, you can raise it for Heal too. If you're a clinician that just does clinical work, that's great. You can get yourself more clinical help to provide more compassionate care. So if you're on the line and you're just do clinical work, people do raise for that all the time. In fact, I always use Hoag Orthopedic Institute. They don't do anything for research. They may have a few clinical trials to raise some money, but they raise an enormous amount of money just for their clinical work. I think the culture, and then I think you had mentioned it earlier, what operational tricks. You have to engage. The person who engenders the passion has to engage. And I would argue that the most important component after engaging is thanking people. So I am injured today. My hand hurts because I literally wrote 60 thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes today. And those are only for the gifts that are $1,000 and more into the department. So I jokingly called Tim earlier and I was like, you got to stop. My hand hurts. But thank you, Tim, for making my hand hurt.
Well, if I could jump in on that, Jamie, on here
Wait, but we
too,
write
just yeah,
notes and we thank.
yeah.
A couple of months after you get your gift, thank your donor. Take them out for dinner again. Tell them the great stuff they've done. You can't thank them enough. Tim, please elaborate. I just had to say that's the key thing is showing gratitude.
Yeah, I think just fundamentally, it's a few things. Dr. Landman, how often do you and I meet?
We meet once a week for about an hour and a half, but we chat daily, multiple times a day usually.
Yeah, we set up a once a week meeting that's myself, Dr. Landman, to talk about, okay, here we are with our numbers on the year for the Department of Urology. Here's some conversations we need to have about major gift prospects here, where conversations stand right now here. Here's some gifts that have closed here. We talk about some big ticket items here with a more comprehensive fundraising focus here with we've had endowed chairs, et cetera here. But we have a structured once a week meeting for about 30 minutes to an hour, I'd say as well. As Dr. Landman mentioned too as well, it's the acknowledgement letters. I think our office will produce acknowledgement letters for our department chair to sign on a weekly basis here to ensure that donors are thanked properly and efficiently, especially as we had a very busy year end here from the holidays. There you go, Dr. Landman. We also generate a list of donor birthdays too as well. So from our office here, we're able to generate a report of donors for certain months here with a birthday. So Dr. Landman will produce that list for him. He'll write a handcrafted birthday message to the donor, acknowledge if they supported Dr. Thomas Allery and Dr. Roshan Patel, et cetera, but making a point of happy birthday, but also thank you so much for your support of Dr. Allery over the years here to make it a little bit more personal on that side. So just from an operational standpoint, it's the once a week meeting and just prioritizing development from that frontier. The acknowledgement letters and the birthday notes go a very long way, as Jamie can talk further about here too. But also we're a part of faculty meetings. And I think development's a very big part of the conversation here where we're able to present about where we stand with fundraising for the year, get some nice shout outs to the faculty and some gifts that went towards to support their research and education here. It's a very feel good. And as Jamie knows, our faculty are very competitive with each other, which I think has actually been a very healthy thing from that side here. But it has motivated them absolutely to work with us on that frontier. And then it's been your message, Jamie, too, about working with us and ensuring that, we'll handle this however the faculty member wants to handle, philanthropy on that side. So operationally, just recapping, it starts with, I think, a weekly meeting, a regular check-in. Acknowledgement letters are a very simple thing. Birthday notes, just building those relationships too on that side aspect. Angelique, please.
I think you both did beautifully on the operational question. I actually would love to comment on the basic science question because I think one of the key components is it seems easier to be connected with our faculty who are seeing patients on a daily basis, right? Because there's a forward-facing side to that. I would say for basic scientists, I had two incredible conversations with basic scientists in the cancer space, but that are doing basic science for other areas as well last week. And to be able to understand the impact of the work that they are doing and have that in the back of my mind at all times, right? Allows me to go out to talk to grateful patients. And when a grateful patient says, hey, I'm interested in research in this space, if I don't know what our basic scientists are doing, then I don't know how to advocate for them. So I would say that our basic scientists should still reach out to development and should share with us, what are you doing? And check in with us regularly as well. We may not be meeting with you on a regular basis, week to week, but we should be meeting with you month or every other month just to understand the impact of the work you're doing. Have you had any, something that we could share that's exciting about the research, or even if you have a story or a narrative of how you received seed funding and how that helped you attain a large government grant. Those stories arm us with incredible talking points on your behalf. And then we share that with our development colleagues as well.
So we wanted to switch gears and talk about donor motivations and translating impact. And so maybe this would go first to Angelique. How should faculty explain impact without like jargon or hype? Like, what structure do you recommend? Do you have like a little short playbook or a cheat sheet for faculty?
Oh, such a great question. Truly, I think that it has to be visionary. So you cannot have any of the jargon. You have to let that all go in terms of the scientific outcomes and what you want. You got to think, okay, this research project is going to get me, or whatever it is you're looking for, is going to get me to cure Parkinson's disease or something to that degree. It has to be very visionary so that we can speak to that at a high level, but in an exciting, impactful way. I mean, truly, Dr. Landman is incredible at this. So I would punt it over to you, Dr. Landman, and ask you, how do you approach your storytelling to inspire donors in the work that you do day to day and for your department as well?
Well, I don't know that I'm great at it, but I will tell you that, first of all, not everything you raise money for is going to be utterly disruptive. You can raise money for a course, you can raise money for a piece of equipment, but in the end, it's about you do have to engage. It's not just going to happen on its own, and you should have a elevator pitch. If you can't tell somebody in under 60 seconds what's important about your Discover, Teach, or Heal enterprise that you're trying to fund, then you don't understand it very well yourself. So you should have an elevator pitch. And that's really all you need initially. That's how you get somebody, if somebody in the office or in any setting says to you, hey, thank you so much for all you've done. How can I help you? It's really easy to say, I'm so grateful. We work really hard to provide great experience. The care you got is a function of great research that's happened in the past. I'd love to talk to you about some research things. I've got and you should have elevator pitch, very short, sub 1 minute. At that point, once you've gotten somebody say, hey, let's get together for coffee or dinner or whatever, there's playbook and rules around that. That you should be prepared to explain it in really simple terms. Some of these people are brilliant, but they don't know the science or the clinical work, and you should be able to translate that. And if it's a really big initiative, we always prepare brochures, multi-page brochures, elaborating it. And very often, because you don't know how big the donor wants to go, it'll have like a menu. You could say, hey, if you want to support this whole enterprise, it's a couple $1 million. If you want to support this course or this little research component or this big research component, here's some different ways you can go. And obviously people sometimes pick off the menu, and sometimes if you're lucky, they say, hey, I like your menu, I'm in.
Go ahead.
Maybe they'd say, I'll buy the whole restaurant.
The amount of money we're able to bring in, because we live in a very, very generous community, buys restaurants. You're right, Brian. You're absolutely correct. And the menus are expensive. Some menus have multiple chairs on them. We've had $5 million menus, right? Probably could buy a restaurant for $5 million. I don't know what a restaurant costs.
I want to add that philanthropy is a very emotional thing, right? So it's very emotional for our donors. They have to want to feel invested, but in a way where, they're giving with no direct ROI other than ROI on impact, right? So they need to feel emotionally invested in that. So that's why I like to ask whoever I'm working with, why are we asking our donors for this? Right? And so to Dr. Landman's point, it's really that concise elevator pitch of what's your why, right? And that's going to help us essentially bring that storytelling to life and inspire our donors to give.
Dr. Landman, to just kind of build on your storytelling, if you could share with the faculty, you're obviously very good and you've done very polished with all of this. How did you first start? Like if you remember your first big donor, how did you just prepare yourself? How did you work on this yourself and, build this over time? If you could share your story on it.
Misha, my first story is embarrassing and humiliating. Okay. So
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait.
That's even better.
I had a patient who was absolutely wonderful. And he was well-to-do, had invented a piece of software and had a very successful company. And I did a kidney cancer surgery on him that went very well. And I had a new development officer, and I told her about him, and I said, I'm going to ask him for $50,000 because I have a really important research project that I want done. And she said to me, you're going to ask him for $1 million. And I said, oh, no, I'm not. That's crazy. I'm not doing that. And she said, if you don't ask him for $1 million, I'm never going to work with you again. I quit urology. I said, all right, I'll ask him. So he and I went to dinner. It was actually at his house. We both like cooking. So we were cooking together. He was teaching me how to make something. And I was literally sitting on his couch after dinner. I just couldn't ask. And I'm like looking down, and like, he's like, and I remember the verbiage. He said, what the F is wrong with you? And I said, I need to ask you for something. And he's like, what? He's like, and I said, I need $1 million for, and he's like, he looks at me and he just did one of these. Like, okay. Now, just so you know, the percentage of that happening is approximately 0, because that's the only time that ever happens. More often, these wealthy and very sophisticated donors will be like, wow, that's an interesting proposal. Let me mull it over, and I'll get back to you. That's whether you're going to get it or not, that's the response. But the fact that he just kind of like tilted his head back, like, all right, and he did. And Ralph Klayman's chair was built half off that $1 million gift. And it was a weird click moment in my head where I'm like, oh my goodness. I hate asking, because I thought it was like asking for yourself, like, hey, can I have $50 so I can have a nice lunch today? It's not. You're asking for a mission that's really important and transcends yourself, and it transcends the institution. It's about making the world a better place. So at that moment, something clicked, and I still, honestly, to date, I don't love asking, but I do it. I do it readily. I do it regularly. I make robust asks. And while it's not my favorite thing, watching the faculty do amazing research and education, walking into Birch Street, where we have a fantasy office that's going to transform healthcare to real healthcare, from reactive sick care to a kitchen where we're now, Gary Deng and I are making cooking videos, and we're our residents we do journal club, and we cook together, and I teach them how to eat healthy so they can teach their patients. Like these kind of fantasy projects, we all went into what we're doing here in academics because we believe in the big mission. And if the big mission doesn't happen via traditional funding sources, you got to be creative. And NIH kind of is tough, at DOD and all the other government sources, and certainly not making it clinically like we used to. This is how you do it. At least it's really working for us. Now we're blessed because other people around the country have been asking me how we do it. UCI is incredibly generous. Most places, the administration asks for itself. So when you engender passion with a research project or a clinical enterprise, they will take the money and build their building or whatever. UCI doesn't do that. They don't steal the money. They let individuals, divisions, and departments raise for themselves. We're in a unique scenario. And as much as we can bitch and complain about a lot of things, we actually have it really good when it comes to development, and we have a great development team.
Oh, that is great. It's great to hear the backstory of that, because faculty don't know. And I think that kind of leads to my next question, which is, let's say we have a new faculty member coming to campus, and you meet with them, maybe for Tim or Angelique. What's the first 3 things you'd want to see when you meet with this new faculty member to move forward with, they're getting off to a good start?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one here. And we've actually had a couple examples working with the Department of Urology. And most recently, a new faculty joined us from Vanderbilt University here. And so when he had started back in January here, Dr. Landman, part of his onboarding process here, asked him would he be interested in working with the philanthropy office here. And this is somebody that has generated significant grants for his research work over the years over at Vanderbilt and now over here at UCI, and actually had experienced grateful patient fundraising at Vanderbilt, and he wanted to carry that over here to UCI especially. So Dr. Landman was kind enough to actually introduce me to the faculty, where we got to spend some time together. I got to ask him, obviously, how he's comfortable with philanthropy, where he's not comfortable, what has his experiences been like working with philanthropy on that side here, and then educating them about, what we do as well. And I think that a rule of thumb that our development team does is we will take the physician's lead on how to manage the relationship right there. As I mentioned, the faculty are the ones that engender the passion, especially, and we will proceed as is with your blessing on that side. So especially when a patient is going through a procedure or heavy recovery here, if it's not a good time for us to reach out, we're going to follow your lead on that too, especially. When we're talking about cultivation for leading up to an ask here, if we agree on those steps here, we'll do that together in sync on that front here, that side. So with new faculty that come on board, we like to educate them about our clinician engagement program, the CEP program here. We usually like to have a standing monthly meeting with our faculty to review some patients together here, folks that they can bring to us, we could bring to them that have come through the feed as well. And we talk about next steps on that side. And again, it's the physician's level of comfort of how they want to be involved too as well, where, as I mentioned, there are faculty that are more than willing to obviously do introductions in that frontier, and that's a great partnership here. There are times where they would defer if we just handle that too, which obviously we can accommodate on that side here. So that's an example we actually had just recently with our department here, and now that physician or that faculty member is now on board with our clinician engagement program here.
So I have another question. Angelique, for the busy clinician with limited time, what are sort of low lift touch points that still matter that can help generate philanthropy?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I would say any opportunity you have to just talk to your donors or talk to your patients about what you're doing, right? Or if they, again, show gratitude in a moment and say, thank you so much. Is there anything I could do to help you?
Mm-hmm.
That moment is the moment that you can transit, especially for the busy faculty member and clinician, you transition that over to development. And even if it's a quick text, a phone call, an email, whatever is easiest for you to let us know immediately who we should be contacting and how. And we can even talk that through with you. And to Tim's point, at your comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I would say just keeping an ear out for those moments of opportunity and building that relationship. A lot of times you can do that in the clinic with your patient when they are just interested in who you are. Engage in that. Share something about what you like to do outside of the clinic, or because the more they get to know you as a person, the more they get invested in everything you do, including your research, your clinic work, what are your educational priorities, whatever it may be.
So to build on that, when should faculty discuss dollar amounts, or should they not? And should they just hand it off to the development officer?
I would say, to Tim's point, there is a certain level of comfort that every faculty member would have. But I would say that it is important to always have that conversation, even if the faculty member is the one that feels ready and confident and knows how to make the ask. You should still have that conversation with your development officer to understand the strategic opportunity. Because two minds in the strategy is always better than one. There may be something that you're missing. What if you're leaving money on the table unknowingly? Or what if there's something else happening that you need to be aware of that has nothing to do with the patient relationship that might affect that ask? So I think forming that relationship with your development officer is the most key component of having a successful fundraising, priorities and
Okay.
shop.
I'll just piggyback off what Angelique here said too as well, and certainly will echo that. There have certainly been circumstances where patients have, come to the physicians or faculty members saying that, hey, I want to make a gift, or hey, I'm interested in learning more about an endowed chair on that side. And so that's a great opportunity for the faculty member to share, saying, hey, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Can I please put you in touch with my development colleague, Angelique or Tim, here as well? And that's where the opportunity for the faculty is to work on that partnership with us, because we want to make sure that the conversation with the donor is going to be in sync. If we're talking about a chair, how much is that going to be? How do we present that? What would this chair be into? We want to make sure that there's a buy-in between the faculty as well as our office too, as well. So we'll make sure that we're communicating the right things to the donor as well. So that's just one thing I always recommend, is that when those gift conversations are happening organically in clinic, that's absolutely amazing. Feel inclined to always say to the patient, saying, I'm happy to refer you to my development officer. And then the faculty member can obviously introduce us from there too, especially. So
that's great advice. From my viewpoint, like I have things that I could say. Well, if you were going to provide a student scholarship, I know that's a $50,000 level ask. If you want to fund a new microscope in my lab, all I need is $1 million. But what I don't know is, how big is an endowed chair ask, and how big is a program ask, and how big is a building ask? So could you give us the bigger menu of what are the kinds of things that we could be thinking about?
Sure. So I'll preface this by saying that this is, in this moment, the amount, but things are always evolving and changing, which is why that connect with your development officer is so important. Because today I may tell you a faculty endowed chair is $2 million, but tomorrow it might transition to be $3 million, because those conversations are being had. The reality is $2 million for a faculty chair is probably not substantially enough in the 4.5% that comes out of it to support whatever priorities they have. And so even if that is the minimum, it's important to talk about what it is that you want to do, right? Because a senior faculty member we might want to find them something that honors them at the level that they need to be honored, which might be more like $3 million. So I ramble with all the nuances. To give you your straight answer, endowed chairs are $2 million for a faculty chair. Administrative chairs anywhere in between $3 to $5 million, but $3 million is the minimum. And Tim, correct me if for whatever reason I'm wrong on any of these. Departments, from my understanding, are $10 million for a department naming. And then there's a whole menu of opportunity for different capital programs. What else? Research endowments. We could do research endowments, or truly an endowment at UCI could be made at $25,000. It's unnamed. To me, in my opinion, that's not a substantial amount to really make an endowment. And especially when we're talking about research dollars, I personally always advocate for current use funds when we're in the 5-figure to even lower 6 figures, because the donor is going to see a lot more impact, as well as the faculty member, when you're giving research dollars at that amount versus an endowment. That's my personal opinion. But research, there's a lot more opportunity to make an endowment for many amounts, depending on what the need is. And then centers or $5 million institutes are $10 million minimum. But again, with an institute, we start thinking the operational need to truly put an institute at play. We oftentimes talk about an institute really requires $20 to $25 million. So to really get that going from bottom up, we're going to look for that transformational donor to make a $20 to $25 million to establish an institute. Do you want to add anything else, Tim? Did I miss anything else on kind of the
No, I think you're spot on. Yeah, just to recap here. Yeah, so to start an endowment again at UCI, it's $25,000. To name an endowment, it's $50,000. To endow a fellowship, currently it's at $1 million. An endowed chair, a faculty endowed chair, is $2 million. Director's chair is $3 million. We have a dean's chair we actually have one on campus. That's $5 million. The centers are 5 million as well. The institute, as Angelique had mentioned too, is we'll say 10 is baseline here too. Again, there's a lot of intricacies involved with that process where it's likely to be much, much more. 20 to 25 is probably more ballpark around that side here too. But those are currently the minimums right now in terms of the big ticket items here, certainly. And those are all, as Angelica mentioned too, subject to potentially change in the future.
And just breaking that down for our audience who maybe aren't mathematicians, at 4.5% a year, and you have a $2 million endowment, that's $90,000 a year for that endowed thing, whatever that might be. So if you had a $25 million endowment, and if you're listening online, folks, Brian Cummings at uci.edu, $25 million endowment would bring in 1.125 million a year. So it's a lot, but it's not as much as you think. That 25 million's got to sit in an account somewhere. So that's why there are these set limits on what the minimum is for a particular gift.
Angelique, you had mentioned the concept of current use funds. Can you explain what you mean by that versus like we get a lot of estate gifts, and can you explain the difference?
Yes, thank you. So really there's three kind of buckets that we're fundraising for, which we've talked about endowments. Current use funds, if somebody makes a $100,000 gift to support research in digestive health, that's going to go to the whole 100,000, assuming it's being made all at once in one fiscal year, gets to go into a spendable account to be used. And we want that money to be used and spent because if we want to be able to go back to the donor and say, this is what you were able to help make possible. And oftentimes when we can give them that story of narrative, they're excited to potentially do more. So please, if anybody gets current use funds, spend the funds as they are intended to be spent. And then share with us how you're spending those funds so we make sure we advocate and share that with the donor. An estate gift is a gift that is made through somebody's trust. So those are funds that are going to be promised, but at that donor's demise. So we may not see those funds depending on the age and the health and all those different factors. We could see them within 2 to 5 years. We could possibly not see them for 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. However, they're extremely important. And a lot of times we have found that we get these wonderful gifts that were given to us that we can do some pretty incredible things from receiving those promised gifts from our donors. And what I like to do with our estate gift donors is a lot of times I will encourage them to do a hybrid gift, which is they will make a commitment in their estate, but then they will also perhaps give an amount that they might need to give based off of their IRA rollover requirements, charitable distribution requirements. And so you might get a 5 to 6 figure gift in partnership for the same purpose as their estate gift. And then the donor feels great because they could see that impact during their lifetime. And they could kind of have a piece of that and then know that they're building off of something that's going to be much more transformational at their demise.
Thank you.
As you said, there were 3. There's a current use gift, an estate gift, and what's the third?
The endowed gift.
Endowed gift. Okay.
Dr. Landman, I wanted to ask kind of 2 questions. For the first question comes, what are in your mind or in kind of the way you've brought, how you shepherd the urology department, what are some non-awkward roles that faculty can do that can still drive philanthropy success? Like for the very introverted faculty or the one who's just early on doesn't feel like they're ready, how do you guide them or what do you recommend for them?
Well, first of all, I think just like everyone on this call, our faculty are super busy. So earlier we talked about the busy faculty. I don't know any non-busy faculty in any department. But if you don't have time or comfort with it, just bring it to the attention of the development officer. Okay. And we have people who are so shy that they don't want, when Tim will craft an email for them to send, they don't feel comfortable sending it. And then Tim will just reach out on his own. All you have to do is send, and it takes all of 5 seconds, send the patient's or your constituent's medical record number, and he can then do a wealth search if the patient, and that way you know how to ask the patient, whether it's for a building or a chair. By the way, I think Brian, you said, or somebody said, 2,090,000 a year is not a lot of money. I'm sorry, we all covet FTEs, and FTE is between 100 and 200,000 depending on your rank. So you see the world differently. I see $90,000 in research funds or salary support, or when you have a chair, you can use it for anything you want, as an incredibly lovely bit of support. Plus, it's extremely prestigious academically. It's like having an FTE. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time, and if you don't have comfort, just bring it to the attention of your development officer.
Okay.
And then, I hate to say this, but I was very uncomfortable with the concept myself out of necessity, because I do love discover, teach, and heal, and I'm passionate about it every day. I became comfortable with it. So I'm not like a natural at this, quite the opposite. I still, like I said earlier, still get a little bit nervous making asks, but I do it every day. Well, just about every day.
Mm-hmm. And then the second part of the question is, because you are doing now this every day and you've gotten more and more comfortable, what are a few phrases or sentences that you have used that creates trust with a potential donor?
I don't think there's any specific verbiage. People just want you to be authentic. And what I love about UCI faculty is that they're generally incredibly passionate about what they're talking about. And I think that's why people think I'm a cogent advocate for development, is because I am crazy passionate about the research and education work we're doing, whether it's, our summer surgery program or high school outreach program, or any of our research teams, or the men's health center that we just built, or the women's health center that we're building. I love it. It's like very meaningful to me. And I people feel that. And I think that's why they're inclined to give. There's no secret other than just being very transparent,
Mm-hmm.
very passionate, and just be real about the whole thing.
And then I think Angelique and Tim, from your perspective, as we close out this discussion, we have a few more minutes left. What are kind of wishes that you all had from the faculty, like to have them more engaged, to get them more involved in this process? From a
how
faculty
can we
level,
help you?
yeah, how can we help you do better? And then also, like, from a leadership standpoint, how can our division chiefs and chairs do more to help you?
Yeah, happy to kick it off here. I think for me, I think maybe I speak for a lot of our development colleagues. We're accessible. Obviously, there's so many hours in a day here too as well, but email is obviously a critical piece of communication here with everything development related here, with referrals, et cetera here. But we have after hours. Obviously, there are times where there are pressing matters with a donor or with a faculty, and we need to get ahead of something. Don't be afraid to contact us, after hours here too, if there's something we need to discuss, or if there's a conversation you had with the donor here. I think a big thing is that we are certainly accessible in so many different ways here. We understand you're absolutely busy transforming the world on that frontier. And sometimes if there's an evening text or something first thing in the morning, we can obviously be as responsive as we can with you and work with you on that side. I think that going back to what I said earlier is that we want to work with you in terms of your level of comfort as well. We want to find a way of where you are comfortable, where you are not comfortable, and how can we fit in that mold right there in itself. There are some people who are comfortable with doing email introductions. There are some faculty who maybe aren't comfortable with doing a dinner meeting or a lunch meeting with the donor on that side. That's certainly a part where we can accommodate from that standpoint too as well. I think those are the first two. The third thing I would say is continue to think about funding ideas. We all have our funding wants and needs from that side. I know everybody here would love to have an endowed chair. As amazing as those obviously very difficult to come by, but certainly that's a need. And we could talk about a prospect list. Certainly that's something we can obviously, work together on here. But to think about those funding needs, that we as development officers can communicate those needs to the community as well too. When we are working with a grateful patient of yours or engaging them We could talk about, Dr. Landman's research here with the Curiosity Innovation Laboratory. We could talk about an endowed chair initiative we're trying to get off the ground for men's health. We could talk about the fifth floor of the Women's Health Center that we're trying to build out on the side here too. I think come up with those ideas that have a funding need tied to it can make the biggest partnership on that side. So I would say knowing that we are accessible, certainly identifying where you are comfortable and where you're not comfortable and where we could fit in between, and identifying the funding needs from your aspect here. Where can we, what can we communicate to donors, especially here too? I don't think there's any idea too big or too small from that side, but there's a collaboration between the faculty and our office of what's feasible and what we can do and what, the funding could be, whether it's current use or endowed. I think those are the three things that come to my mind.
Okay, thank you. Angelique?
So I echo everything Tim said. I would add for division leaders and department leaders, encourage your faculty to come talk to us. The two basic scientists I spoke to last week were encouraged to come reach out to me and gave my contact information to those basic scientists. They took the initiative to reach out to me, and we had a wonderful dialogue. So make sure that you know who we are and encourage the faculty to contact us, and just get to know us, share with us what everybody's doing, and essentially expand our Rolodex of possibilities to speak to. I would also say understanding that philanthropy is an investment of time. And I'm not talking about necessarily like it is an investment. The more time you're willing to put into it, the more likely you'll find donors. But it's also an investment of time in the sense that a gift is not going to turn around in a couple of meetings with a development officer. It really takes thought and intention on both parts. So even if it might feel like in the beginning, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, be patiently persistent with the process. Even if you're just checking in every quarterly with us, because there may be something that you have a very specific need, and we might not have someone in mind, but then, and this has happened to me, where 2 years later, I did meet the donor and I'm like, oh, I do know somewhere where this could fit, right? So make sure that you understand it is an investment of time. Be patiently persistent. There is a little bit of luck, but the more you increase your odds by being engaged with us, by signing 60 thank you letters, out of those 60, there might be more funding from 2 to 5, 10 of those. It really is an investment of time and just waiting for you to get that return.
All right.
Dr. Landman? Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just going to ask the last, summary question because we're out of time, but
yeah,
we don't know necessarily as faculty, who do we talk to in advancement? Do we just go start with you, Angelique, and you'll send us off to the right person depending on what division and what research area we're in?
Yeah, you could reach out to me or Tim on this call. We also have our interim associate vice chancellor, Matt Spencer. And then in between the three of us, we really cover a lot of the clinical departments. The School of Medicine, the College of Health Sciences is really overseen by our colleague, Nikki Gaitan, who's a senior executive director of development as well. So if you're within one of those areas, Nikki's the person to contact. I'd be happy to send Brian or Dr. Prelletz. We could send the contact information for the four of us, and you can reach out to any one of us. And if we're not the right person, we know how to get you to the right person. So we could take it from there and triage as needed.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank our entire group of panelists and everyone who joined us tonight. And obviously, you've heard the message tonight. If you want to explore philanthropic support, the best first step is a short consult with your development officer. So, maybe bring them a paragraph, impact statement of what your research is and set up a meeting and get on their calendar and make it happen. Again, thank you to Dr. Landman and to Angelique and Tim. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next month for the next session.
Thank you.